23rd of April, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora, or I don't know, Pirkei Avos, something.
Something. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Um,
Study.
okay, so we'll do study. That's one of the Menches Kenyoni, Limud. So that would be a good thing to do. Okay, so we're getting ready for Matan Torah. That's the idea. It needs preparation. So this is one of the preparations. Okay, so where are we holding now?
The Talmud.
Uh, Good morning, Rabbi Levitt.
Good morning, Roy. Good to see
Hi,
you.
you too. What are we doing?
We're we have two things that we're doing during the Seder. We do a few minutes of the 48 ways to acquire Torah, and then we do Bava Metzia.
Okay. Um,
So
yeah,
Lou is looking up for us right now, I believe, something relevant to the 48 ways.
I was thinking, Rabbi, since we're actually a little bit behind because I think today is day 10.
Right. Oh,
Um,
yes. Yom
Maybe
Yom.
we could do two per day as a minimum, and we'll start with number one and then jump to 10. And then tomorrow we'll do number 2 and 11 so that we're catching up, but also that we're learning the daily one.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I've got this book here, Ethics from Sinai. It's by not Rabbi, it's by Irving Bunham,
Oh, yes, of course.
the
mhm.
subject of fire in the soul. So
Yes.
I'll read this to you. We might wonder why something so obvious is listed, but Rabbi Shem Tov, Ibn Shem Tov, emphasizes that it means just that. There are no shortcuts or magic techniques. If you let a tape recorder softly pour words of Torah into your ears while you sleep for subliminal conditioning, you may come to know the Torah as a parrot knows speech. To master and understand, study, put in time. Other commentaries, e.g., Rabbi Yitzchak of Toledo, understand it to mean study with a teacher, not alone. You grasp things better and faster by listening to a live human being whose facial expressions and gesture to vivify and emphasize and brings order to the lesson. I'm sorry, he uses facial expressions and gesture to vivify and emphasize and bring order to the lesson than you ever will from the words on a frozen page. Moreover, words in a volume can sometimes contain a mistake or be misunderstood. Hence, the old Hebrew adage from scribes, i.e., scholars, and not from scripts. And that's from Rabbi Judah Halevi, Book of the Kuzari. In the hushed quiet of a public library's room, you can acquire no more than information. If you would learn the divine word, you can transfigure your life. Go to a teacher in a Beit Midrash. That's his comment on number one, study.
No shortcuts.
Right.
That's the idea.
But I have to say, there's something to be said for the quiet of the library.
Mm.
When I'm in the Beit Midrash, it's very, very hard to understand my chavrusa because there's so much noise. I can't hear.
Oh, okay. So look, you have to do what works for you. If uh, if you find more hatzlacha in a place where it's quieter, so then absolutely, uh, you have to do you have to go to that place. So no doubt.
Okay, so shall we jump to 10?
So we'll jump to 10. That's for today. Yeah.
Yeshimush Chachamim, by attending upon scholars. When a royal servant told the king of Israel about the prophet Elijah's discipline, he said, Elisha is here who poured water on the hands of Elijah, not who learned prophecy from Elijah. It meant more that he had tended to his master's personal needs. So does Scripture call Joshua the attendant of Moshe. His attendant, Joshua, did not stir from within the tent. This was the key part of the young man's training to become Moshe's successor, as Elisha became Elijah's. Is this so strange to understand? Every self-respecting college course in engineering or the physical sciences has lecture hours and laboratory hours. Why are lectures alone not enough? Words, principles, theories are fine, but to experience their application in the world of the actual is to learn them in a different dimension. The Torah is a guide to immutable divine laws and principles to follow and observe if we are to prosper and grow spiritually. But how do you translate your Torah learning into daily living? How do you weave it into the regular round of duties, actions, and counters that can never be taught in the lecture hours in the classroom? You must take the laboratory hours. Be with your mentor often enough and long enough until you know not in your mind but in your bones how the Torah informs and modifies life. As Rabbi Akiva told it, he learned his truth the hard way. Once he said he was walking along on a journey when he found a dead body. With no one about, there were clearly no relatives to give the dead man burial. So he was a mace mitzvah. So he was a mace mitzvah. Having found the body, Rabbi Akiva had a solemn duty to give it a proper burial. 4 mills, about 2 miles, he carried it till he reached a proper cemetery, and there he made its grave. When he came to study with Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Joshua, he told them. The reply was, for every single step you took, it is as if you had shed blood, because he had thus shamed the dead man. The law required him to make the body's grave right where he found it. And Rabbi Akiva thought, when I meant to act virtuously, I incurred guilt. When I do not mean to act virtuously, how more certainly so. From that moment on, he would not stop attending upon scholars. And when himself a sage, he would teach, whoever has not personally served scholars deserves death. He knew the law, but until he lived with sages, he could not know how to fulfill it properly. Theory is one thing, practice another. Then there is the old adage that action speaks louder than words. A teacher may speak on, and the student will nod brightly and remember fluently, but it will all remain somewhat remote in a compartment for the compartment of the intellect. It is often said that one picture is worth 1,000 words. When a student sees a teacher of Torah in action, he gets the picture. It makes an impact on his psyche to see how the faith he has learned in words comes alive in action, brings divine holiness into ordinary everyday things. A room for prayer can become a portal to a heavenly sanctuary. A meal table can become an altar where all is for the sake of heaven. A fellow being in need of help can bring a chance to raise him with you to a new level of human dignity in the Almighty's abiding presence. Said Reb Leib ben Sara, one of the most devout disciples of Rev Dov Ber, the Maggid of Mezrich, I did not go to the Maggid to hear Torah from him. I came to see how he laces his shoes and unlaces them. Down to the lowest act, holiness informs the life of the tzaddik. Serve him and he will sense it. That's it.
That's it. Okay, great. Gavaldik. Now,
Kind of a similarity between the two, the idea of doing things, not just learning.
yeah, right, right, right. Actually, right. I mean, everything that we learn, it has a physical count component to it. If it concerns a mitzvah, yeah. How's it play out in real life? It's not something which is just theoretical. It's not theoretical. It's all very very practical.
Right.
But 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 the mitzvah of Talmud Torah itself, yeah. In other words, are they saying that in a certain sense to observe the teacher, that it also is Talmud Torah because one understands how to fulfill the Torah. That's
Right.
the ultimate. That's the ultimate understanding of what the words that we read about mean. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so what we did the first mitzvah, the first kinyan and the 10th kinyan today.
Right.
That's the formula. Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, so now we should go to the we'll go to the Gemora.
All right, I've got to go and get it. Baba Metzia, which number?
It's
First parak,
Big pardon?
the first parak. So that'll be your first volume of Bava Metzia.
Okay.
So, Rabbi, would you mind backing up a little bit and point the camera down and show me how you tie your shoelaces?
Everybody knows how you're supposed to tie your shoes, right?
You tie, well, it depends. I'm left-handed. So
Oh,
I put on the right shoe and then the left shoe, and then I tie the right shoe and tie the left shoe.
right, right. It's actually Rev Barkley wrote a little compendium about that actually about for people that are left-handed. Sometimes it's the halacha is that it's not equal in all cases, that it's just the opposite of the way it is for everybody else. It depends on it depends on the mitzvah.
Right, right. I actually have a book called The Left-Hander's Handbook.
Oh yeah.
It was written by the author of the Maggid Speaks. What's his name? I forgot.
Pesach Kron.
Yeah, Pesach Krohn. It's written by Pesach Krohn. Yeah, it's a very good
Really
book. It's a little pamphlet. It's maybe 50 pages or something like that. It's got
uh-huh.
all the laws that are affected by if you're left-handed or not.
Interesting. Okay.
So let's see, where are we? We're on 16b3, Roy.
Ah, okay. 16, 15, 17, 16, 9. Okay, 16b3. All right.
I think, Rabbi, we were up to the second Amar Rava.
Ella Amarava.
Yeah. And Roy, that's on the right-hand column, the third to the last paragraph. The Gemora proposes an alternate explanation.
Oh, yeah. Mm. Was it an alternate explanation to what? Um,
Good question.
What? Well, that's a good question.
He said, an alternate to what?
Oh, alternative. Oh, it says alternative explanation. Yeah, inami. Yeah, right,
so
right.
what was the question? What was the situation?
So
Oh, maybe we should go over this all again from the beginning.
it might be worthwhile, Rabbi. Nice little review.
Okay, so let's do it. So now the question, of course, is if we could figure out the uh, the the thread, the what was the issue that the Gemora had, which led it on this whole thread of that it's talking about everything it is talking about over here. And if we if we look at that, we could sort of appreciate the depth of what the Gemara is saying over here.
Right.
The whole story started. The whole story started with the issue of um, are we choshesh for the loiva paying up the debt, even though the star was found in the street. And so, in other words, what's the issue? The issue is but we choshesh for the possibility that the loiva paid it, and for some reason he didn't tear it up right away, and so therefore we found the shtar in the street. Do we say, well, look, if the loba actually paid it, so then that means that the malva should have given the document of the loan to the loiva, and he promptly should have torn it up. But if we found it in the street, that's a proof that he never paid it up. Nafkamina is, should we give this found document back to the malva, the one that loaned the money? That's how this whole thread started.
Right.
So you know what? We could start from. Let's start from Amar Shmuel. Amar Shmuel is the first. It's like a third of the way down on Tez Zayin Amid base. It says Amar Shmuel after the two dots in the middle of the line. First word in the line is Vav Aleph Reish. The Amar Rev Meir.
Okay, so it's on 16B1, right-hand column, third paragraph. The Gemora returns to its primary discussion.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. So this is regarding. Okay, so we'll see how to go. We'll read it and we'll explain it as we go. So Amar of Shmuel, Roy, would you like to be honored with leading off the reading for today?
Thank you. Omar Shmuel, Shmuel said, Amote Shtar Hakana Bashuk. If one finds a document of acquisition.
Rabbi, Phil is waiting to be admitted.
Oh, really? I don't see that. Why not? Well, maybe it's because I don't have a proper. Anyway, yeah, now I see. Looking at the participants. Okay. Okay. Here he comes. Ezrat Hashem. Okay, Roy, please continue. Phil will be very surprised to hear that we started again from Amar Shmuel, I'm sure.
So Shmuel said, if one finds a document of acquisition in the street, the Ba'alim, he should return it to its owner, that is the creditor. What reason could there be for withholding it from the creditor? Dai mashum divorcee lolos velo lava. If you argue that perhaps the debtor wrote the document intending to borrow, but in the end did not actually borrow, this is not a concern here. Hay Shabad Nafshay, for he obligated himself to pay the creditor regardless of whether he borrowed.
Right. So that means that we got to try to figure out what case this would be, practically speaking. Why would somebody, what are we talking about? What's happening over here? We've got a document, which ostensibly is a loan document. That's what it says on the face of it. But truth of the matter is that the person who's obligating himself to repay the money that he borrowed, so to speak, is obligating himself even in the event that the loan was never made. That's what we're talking about over here. So you'll ask me, Why would anybody ever do something like that? That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe they talk about. I'm sure somebody talks about it, but unless you want to get involved with that, we'll just take it as it is, and we'll go weiter. But that in any case, that solves the issue of, well, maybe this is a document that never became really official, that the guy owes the money because the loan was never made. A guy could have a document written up by a scribe that because he wants to get a loan from somebody, and he has it written up, and then at the end of the day, the guy told him, "Listen, I can't loan you any money now," and then he threw it away. But then somebody found it in the street, and the loan was never made. But we're not talking about such a document. We're talking about a document that the Shabbat Nafshe. That's the essence of what we call a shtar hakna. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. Happy walking back.
Hope it's nice weather.
Yeah, a little cloudy, but it's warm.
It's cloudy, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's the first issue. If you'll say that we really shouldn't return it to the Malva, because really he never loaned the money. So we're saying no. We're talking about a shtar hakna. It's irrelevant whether he actually loaned the money. In any case, the other party, he was meshabed himself under all circumstances. Issue number one. Issue number two.
Mishum Barayon, and if you argue that the note should be withheld because of repayment, this too is not a consideration. Lo Shinan Lifer on. But we are not concerned about the possibility of payment of a debt recorded in a recovered document.
Right. In other words, we're lo chashin in the piroyan. We don't entertain the possibility that some guy paid off the loan, and yet when the document was given to him in return, as per the din, that he gets the document now that he's paid up the loan, for some reason he didn't tear it up right away, and so therefore it's somebody it's extant, and it was found in the street. That's a very strange scenario. So the Gemora says, no, we don't worry about such a thing like that. So really, the Gemora is saying over here, we're not koshish lepiroyan, meaning we're not koshish that the guy paid and yet he didn't tear up the document, and therefore that's why it was found. So that's going to be the issue of our Gemora. Is that really so? Are we choshesh for such a thing, or are we not choshesh for such a thing? Everything that we're going to say in the next until practically the end of the page, and maybe even further than that, is going to be centered around that issue. We're going to try to bring support to prove what's the din. What are we choshesh or not? So there we have the issue. Now,
Ba'aim harasa de pare. For if it were true that the debtor already repaid the creditor, makare hava kore le, the debtor would have ripped the document. We ripped up the document. But since the document is intact, the debt was clearly not paid.
right. So that's what the Gemara takes on right now.
Mm-hmm. So the Gemara verifies that this is Shmuel's opinion. Omer Rav Nachman, Abba min Safiri, Daini Demai Shmuel Hava. Rav Nachman said, my father was one of Shmuel's court scribes. But Bahavna Kaber Shisa Kaber Sheva, and I was 6 or 7 years old at the time. Udavorena de Hevel Mavarizi Amare, and I recall that they would announce and say, Hena Shatare Akanayesa Dimashati Shite Take Vishuka. And they would announce and say, these documents of acquisition that are found in the street, Nechadarina Hu Lamara Rehu, should be returned to their owners, that is, to the creditors. And the Gemora supports Shmuel's ruling. Omer Rav Amaram. Rav Amaram said, Af Anan Tenina. We also learned a similar ruling in a Mishnah. Baal Ma'aseh Beis Din. If one finds any document recording an act of the court, Areze Yitazir, he should return it to the creditor named therein. Rav Amram presumes that this refers to a note of indebtedness which has been certified by the court. Alama la Shenan Lefar Rayon. It follows then that the Mishnah holds that when we are certain of the authenticity of the debt recorded in a recovered document, we are not concerned about the possibility of the debt's payment. And this supports Shmuel's ruling. The Gemara refutes this proof. Omale Rabbi Zira. Rav Zera told Rav Amram, Matanisin, Bishutori, Chaltar Sa, Adore Ravati. The Mishnah's phrase, act of the court, refers not to a certified note of indebtedness, but to certificates of foreclosure and seizure warrants. Velev Bene Pedarion Nisa Ninahu, but to certified notes of indebtedness, but refers to certificates of foreclosure and seizure warrants which are not payable. And then Ashwell continues, therefore they must be returned to the creditor. An ordinary payable note, however, cannot be returned to the creditor, even if it has been certified, because a debt might have already been paid. And then we have a challenge to the refutation.
Right. Okay, so okay, so so now we're up to Amarava, the first Amarava. Right?
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about, so Roy, would you like to take over the reading?
No, somebody else can do it now.
Oh, I mean, sorry, I mean, Lou,
Okay.
please take over the reading.
Let's see. Amar Rava. Rava said, V'hanei lav b'nei paraon ninahu. Are these documents indeed not payable? V'ha amrei nehar da'ai. But the Nahardian scholars say, Shuma Hadar Ad Tere Sar Yarche Shata. Seized property must be returned to the debtor if he offers money up to 12 months after its collection. V'amar Amemar, and the Memar said, Ana me Nahardai, Ana, I am from Nahardai. Usavira li Dishuma Hadar Le'olam. And I think that seized property must be returned forever. So, in other words, a foreclosure document is mentioned because it's not payable. So the question of whether you're concerned that he paid it, it becomes irrelevant since there's nothing to pay. But then the Gemora challenges that by saying that according to the Nahardai, the Shiva Nahardai, there's an option for the person from whom the property was taken that he can pay. He can say, listen, you took my property. I want it back. I'm going to give you the money. You give me back the property. And
Right.
there's a machlokus about whether that option lasts for a year or forever. But in any case, it makes the foreclosure document a document that is paid, and therefore we can once again have the concern that maybe he paid it.
Maybe he paid it, even though we found the document.
Right, in which case we shouldn't give it back to the creditor. Because he'll take the land from him again in unjustly.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so in other words, we're keeping score over here. So now, at this point in the Gemara, what are we saying about the issue of piroyan, about payment? We're saying that are we saying that we see from here that we are concerned about piroyan, even though we found the document, and therefore we would not return it to the Malva? Or are we saying, no, we're not concerned about piroyan, even though we found the document, therefore we will return it to the creditor, the Malva? How's the Gemara coming out over here?
Aren't we talking about how honest the creditor is? We're assuming that the creditor could be dishonest. What if the creditor is a well-known rabbi? irrefutably.
Oh, no, that's not the issue at all. No,
No?
that's not the issue at all. No, the issue entirely is are we going to give it into his hands, uh, based upon maybe the loan was already paid,
Mhm.
and even though we found it in the street, we still have a concern that maybe he paid, and we have to take that into account. And if we have to take that into account, we're not going to give it back to the Malva, no matter if he's Moshe Rabbeinu. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's not a matter of trusting the Malva. No, not at all. You see that? You see that that's
Yeah,
what the
and if,
Gemara. You see that's what Gemara's issue is. The Gemara is not discussing anything about the Malva.
mm,
The Gemara is discussing about is it the case, as far as I understand, if I understand it correctly, is it the case that that oh so now let's try to figure this out. Let's try to figure this out. Um, yeah, let's try to figure this out. In other words, according to what Rava is saying now, we're saying really we are talking about these documents of foreclosure, these documents of seizure, because they are pertinent to the issue of Piroyan. Um, because what? Sorry, getting lost in the thread. Oh, okay. So again, are we up to the first Amarava? We didn't get to the Ella Amarava yet.
That's correct. The next thing we should read is Ella Amarava.
Okay, but at this point in the Gemara, I believe we're saying that according to what Rava has told us, what is Rava doing? Rava is challenging the fact that these documents are b'nei piroyan, that they're not b'nei piroyan. He says that they are. He says, you see, that they are b'nei piroyan. This is a sticky point over here. 1 second. Amar Rava, Hani lav b'nei piroyan ninu. Is it so that these documents, the Shtare Haltosa and the Adrachta, they're not b'nei piroyan? V'ha amre nardoi. He's challenging that from the case of Nardoi. In Nardoi, we said a shuma is hadar. Atresar yache shasa. And the Maimar said, Ana min Nardo ana, uspirli the shuma hadar la'olam. Now, if that is so, so then we are saying that these two documents, the foreclosure documents that gives authorization to the Malva, that after he's already won an award to collect from the loiva, and nevertheless the loiva is not paid up, and so now he gets this shtar chaltasa that allows him to go down to the properties of the loiva and seize them, and that's the adrachta is the seizure warrant. So what does it mean that we give it 12 months, we give it la'olam? We see that those documents are really omid lepiroyan. Why? Because it's possible that the loiva did pay up his money, so, and therefore the Malva gave him these gave him back the karka that he already had seized with the help of these two documents, Kaltosa and Adrachta. And so too, and these shtaros themselves that facilitated the collection of the properties, and now we're going to give them back to we found them. We're going to give them back to the Malva. Oh, if we would do that, in other words, if we would give them back to the Malva, that would, technically speaking, this is Roy's issue over here. Why would the Malva do that? He's going to be collecting karka that for a second time that he's not entitled to because he's already been paid up. That's Roy's question, right?
Yeah.
From this that the Mishnah says that we in fact do give it back to the Malva, what should we conclude? So Roy says maybe we can conclude from the fact that the Malva is an honest fellow. He wouldn't do that. No, that's not what the Gemora's point is. The Gemora's point is from the fact that we can give it back to the Malva, from the fact that we do give it back to the Malva if we find it in the Shuk, that shows us that what? That we don't concern ourselves with this possibility that maybe the Lova paid and blah, 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 and nevertheless it wasn't torn up and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. We don't concern ourselves with that. In other words, we say that what? If we found it in the street, it must be that he didn't pay. That's why we give it back to the Malva. And so there you have it, that we see from this whole part of the Gemara. At this point in the Gemara, we're coming back to saying that we don't ain't lo chashin in the piroyan. That's what we got at this point in the Gemara. Okay, now we go to the Ella Amarava.
Ella Amarava, rather Rava said, Hasam Chayinu Tama. There in the Mishnah, the reason we return the documents to the creditor is the Amrei Ihu Hu the Af Seed Anaf She. Because we say that if the debtor paid the obligation, he brought an undue loss upon himself. Diva I dina di naf di far ayah. For at the time that he paid the creditor, iboye le mik ra'e le lish tare. He should have ripped the document. Inami the michtav shtara acharina ilave, or ask the creditor to write him another document concerning the land, stating that he repossessed it. Since the debtor did not rip the document and he is not in the possession of a different document stating that the land was returned to him, we presume that the obligation remained unpaid. Therefore, the document is returned to the creditor. Okay, so now this is
Okay. I think that what the Gemora is saying now is something that we already spoke out. The Gemora is just speaking out the um, the ramifications of what we just said in the previous shlav, the previous step in the Gemara. In other words, Rav is saying that what? Ella Amar Rava. What's the reason that we give the document back to the Malva, even though there is definitely a concern that it was paid, and that therefore the Malva is being given an opportunity to improperly collect a second time. That's because even if that would be so, we say to the Lova, listen, you caused the loss yourself. He caused the loss to himself. The beina, the pari, the one that comes to pay, he boy lay the mikre ishtari. He needs to make sure that he destroys that document that he receives in exchange for the payment that he made. That's his responsibility. Inami lemichtav shtara afrina ilobe. Now here it's a bit, it's not written out completely what happened over here. The inami what? It doesn't tell us. And then it says, Lemiktav shtara achrina ilabe. We'll write for him another star. Okay, I see we're already out of time over here. Right in the middle. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi.
Okay,
Thank you.
Gemora.
fine, thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Catch you when I'm taping tomorrow. When am I available? Okay, take care.
Then. Bye.
Bye, Phil. Bye,
Bye-bye. Take care.
Roy. Bye,
Bye.
Lou.